Hello everyone, welcome to StraightA. Dawson here, back on our video here today, and we are recapping week 9 of the NFL season as we prepare to go into week 10. So I'm very excited. We're going to jump right into it. Not going to waste any time. Leave a like, leave a subscribe, comment down below, whatever you want to do, you let me know. Jets beat the Texans at home. Pretty fine game. Jets pretty much had this game on lock throughout the whole game. Texans really didn't have much going momentum-wise for their offense. C.J. Stroud didn't look good. Joe Mixon was really carrying the team, but you can only give him the ball so many times. Tank Dell cleared number one guy there if Nico, Stephon Diggs aren't there, so that's good to see. Dalton Schultz didn't get involved as much as I thought he would. I suppose the defense for the Texans played one of its worst games. Aaron Rodgers really was collective in the pocket. You know, when you can't really phase a quarterback like that who's seen everything. Aaron Rodgers, like 2 passes to Garrett Wilson, who was a freaking beast this game. Devontae Adams was involved. Breece Hall was doing his job. And Braylon Allen has been phased out of this offense, it looks like, for the most part. At least for the most part, I should say. Defensively, Jets have played just out of their mind against the Texans team, which has been hit or miss on offense, but they definitely made a miss today. So Jets, they might have some fight in them left. They might just have some fight in them. Texans are still going to be a top team for now. They have some bad weeks. They have some good weeks. I don't know if they're going to be a playoff contender, a real playoff contender, if they make the playoffs. Just because I don't think they have that consistent aggression. So we'll see. Panthers beat the Saints here, and this game will make me look foolish for predicting the Saints to win against the Falcons next week. I feel like they need a good bounce back game. I feel like they can do it against the Falcons. Divisional game, stuff like that. But Panthers, I mean, they didn't look awful here. The Saints looked pretty bad. So, I mean, Derek Carr, of course, I mistakenly said he came back the previous day, but he actually came back in this game. When I looked it back, he was fine. He was Derek Carr. Alvin Kamara ran all up over them. Receiving wise, I mean, nobody other than Kamara did anything. The Saints defense was atrocious. I mean, they traded away their only good defensive player. Bryce Young, I mean, didn't look good, but didn't look bad, I guess. The running game was fine. The receiving game was fine. Like, the Panthers across the board were fine, but they just weren't great. They just both played not great ball against each other, and they won from, I don't think it was a last-minute field goal, actually. I actually kind of forgot how they won now I think about it. But either way, the Panthers came away with a victory. Very, very end, though. Make sure to kill the clock, kill the Saints, and take home the dub. And their second dub of the season, so good for the Panthers. They got some life in them, so maybe Bryce Young can lead this team to some victories. Saints, they're banged up. They're not looking great, but I think they can pull around. I think they can pull back around a little bit. So we'll see how the Saints go going forward. Texans are playoff contenders still. Jets still outside looking in, but they can make it. Panthers are number 1 pick potential. Saints at this point are number 1 pick potential. Commanders are NFC champions. No, I'm kidding. But they beat the Giants. I mean, don't get me wrong. This wasn't like the most impressive victory in the world. Giants aren't a great team, but the defense is hard to play sometimes. And Jaden Daniels played very, very well against them. Just looked very calm and collected. Really boosting up his stock for that offensive rookie of the year. Run game really was not even Austin Eckler's day. It was Chris Rodriguez who got more involved without oh my gosh, why am I blanking all of a sudden? Without Brian Robinson Jr. there, holy crap. Receiving wise, Noah Brown was the main guy, but Terry McLaurin had 2 touchdowns, so take that as you will. The Commanders' defense has been playing very, very good. They played less good against the Giants here, so divisional matchups, I guess I can see that. But they still played all right. Daniel Jones had one of his better days. Tyrone Tracy, one of his worst days. Malik Neighbors, one of his worst days. Defensively, the Giants were okay on the ground. They were okay with the defensive line, but they really got torched in the air. They really allowed a lot of first downs they really shouldn't have. So the Giants kind of had that add up, and the Commanders eventually just came away with the victory. Giants, though, I'm not going to say you're number 1 pick potential, but you're up there. Commanders, you are genuinely a contender. And this week, if you win, I think that the Commanders need to be talked about more. Bills nearly squeaked out a win against the Dolphins here. Divisional game. Dolphins are coming back in form of Tua. Bills overall look like the Bills, so there's not much surprise there. So Tua looked actually good. I mean, this team overall, even in a loss, looked pretty good. Devon Achane looked like he was rolling pretty well. Tua looked very comfortable throwing to his team. Tyreek Hill getting back in form a little bit. Need to see some touchdown passes and more reliance on him in the long form. Jalen Waddle needs to get more involved other than just one random touchdown and -4 yards because he lost like 24 yards in one play. Very crazy. Jonnu Smith getting more involved is really awesome to see that Tua is kind of getting more of a sparse allocation of his weapons. Defensively, the Dolphins were almost nothing. They were fine, but the Bills, who are the ones who came away with it, Josh Allen, great as usual. James Cook, efficient at least. Receiving wise, again, efficient. Defensively, Doesn't show the stats here. They did pretty well. Tua again was getting not hit, I shouldn't say, was getting pressured quite a bit, so he had to make some weird throws. Jonnu Smith had to get involved, so he had to release the ball a lot quicker. So the Bills definitely put pressure on him, but overall still was a high-scoring game. Bills contenders, Dolphins outside looking in. Chargers, I mean, no secret, their offense is coming back a little bit to explode. Their defense has always been pretty good. J.K. Dobbins had a really good game against a bad defensive line against the Browns. So very, very good game for the offense. Quentin Johnston is back, baby. Lad McConkey and him are going to have field days with defenses going forward. Chargers defense played very, very well, granted against a bad offensive line. I shouldn't even say bad offensive line because the Browns are pretty much healthy at this point, so they really have no excuse to be letting up as many sacks as they did. Jameis Winston, though, tell you what, that sucker can throw the ball, but he can also throw some fucking picks. I tell you, it was frustrating seeing him pick. Granted, this is near the end of the game when they're trying to catch up, so like it's not much fault to him, but still. Run game, Nick Chubb again just doesn't look great. Cedric Tillman, he's the long down guy. Jerry Jeudy, more of that slot kind of guy. David Njoku is really getting covered like a number one receiver, so we'll see how much he can get involved in the future. Defensively, one of the better days for the defensive line, but the secondary got fucking torched, and the offense didn't do very well too, so they were always in bad positions. But good on the defensive line. They didn't really stop the run very much, but they got to Justin Herbert quite a bit. Myles Garrett, of course, is a beast. No surprise there. 27-10. Chargers, they're going to be a wild card contender. Cleveland Browns, I'm not going to say you're a number one pick contender, but you're not great. Patriots, Titans, I barely watched this game. This was the most uninteresting game in the world. Drake May looked fine, I guess, but he didn't look great. Run game was not anything good for both these teams. From what Tony Pollard got good yardage from what I remember. Hunter Henry is the number one guy there, and when a tight end is your number one weapon there at a like 200-yard roughly game, you know it's not that interesting. Patriots and Titans defenses both did very, very well in terms of pressuring and just allowing incompletions, but wasn't very interesting. Mason Rudolph did have a better day. Tony Pollard, again, workhorse on the ground. It's not really surprising there. Calvin Ridley, okay day, so nothing too special there. Defensively, again, Titans probably, I guess, did statistically have a better day, but both teams played very more ground and pound football. They still go to overtime. Titans won with a field goal. So take that as you will. Moving on. Both these teams are not going to be contenders. They're going to be not even number one pick contenders, but like they're down there. Falcons looked great in a win against the Cowboys. Cowboys looked, I should say, awful. They showed some form of life at some point in the game. There's not very much of it. Dak Prescott got hurt, and I think he'll be out for a couple weeks, so Cooper Rush will be coming in as the replacement. This Cowboys team's not winning anything with Cooper Rush, I'll tell you that. Unless it's against a really bad team, they ain't winning. Rico Dowdle looks pretty good. I mean, he's a very good running back, I think, for this team, so I'm very curious to see his role in future years. Jake Ferguson and CeeDee Lamb, main guys. Everybody else pretty much irrelevant unless you're talking about the end zone. Defensively, Cowboys again is just one of the worst years I've seen their defense in recent memory. It has not been good, especially against the Falcons' offensive line, which I feel like is a weaker one. I shouldn't say weaker. It's a middle ground one. Kirk Cousins slinging that rock. He's smart. I mean, Kirk Cousins is like one of the smartest players on the field when it comes to quarterback. No surprise here. Bijan looked very good, very efficient. Darnell Mooney continues to get involved. Bijan, again, in the receiving game is getting a lot of valuable touches. And Falcons defense, especially in the secondary, was cooking this team alive. I mean, it just was awful. The Cowboys couldn't get anything going. Second half, especially Cooper Rush came in. Like, he was making small passes, and the fucking defensive players for the Falcons were all over him. Falcons were probably going to win that division. Cowboys, outside looking in. Raiders, Bengals. I mean, this is just basically a Bengals shooting gallery. Raiders tried to do what they could. Desmond Ridder eventually came in, I think, just to replace Gardner Minshew. I don't think he even got hurt. The run game was pretty much obsolete because the Bengals got up so quickly. Brock Bowers was the main guy, but Jacoby Myers got the main targets. In terms of yardage too. Raiders defense absolutely did nothing against the Bengals. Bengals had their way with them. Joe Burrow, 5 touchdowns. This man puts up the most random stats of 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 1 interception, 200 and something yards. This man will just throw up for the most random stats and just be fine with it. Joe Burrow is just so fucking crazy. Chase Brown, Khalil Herbert's behind him now, but Chase Brown is going to be the workhorse going forward. I doubt he'll get 27 touches in a game going forward, but we'll see. Mike Gesicki without T. Higgins is like the most valuable tight end in the league, it looks like, because especially when you have Joe Burrow throwing to you for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, it's fucking good. Bengals defense, Trey Hendrickson had 4 sacks. That's fucking crazy. I mean, it was good. They pressured him. The Raiders did nothing, so I can't really fault the Bengals. Now I don't know how much was the Bengals defense and how much was the Raiders just sucking, but like they were there. They were putting Gardner Minshew on his ass, I'll tell you that. And then Desmond Ridder came out, wasn't doing much too better. So Bengals, they are giving me some hope. They're giving me some life in them. They're like, I'm fighting, and I like it. I like the Bengals. Get the fucking playoffs. Get that wild card spot. Even if I had to give up the Broncos, I'd consider it. I consider it for you Bengals. I consider it. Raiders, out of there. You're done. Done for the fucking season. Oh, so what else is done for the fucking season? Holy fuck, the Broncos got cooked. It's crazy that if the Broncos did win this game, they'd be over the Ravens in standings. That's actually kind of nuts. Despite the whole narrative going on right now, let's say one thing. This wasn't an awful. This is not as awful as the box score kind of let it be. The game was kind of over in the second half already, because 24-3 going into the second half, not a very good look. So it was virtually over. There was a little bit of life at the beginning, but then the Ravens kind of solidified it. So anything after that was kind of just them kind of getting the feel of things. Bo Nix didn't look great, but he didn't look awful. Definitely wasn't his worst game. The run game, again, has had better days, but it was a good defense. Cortland Sutton, he's the number 1 target there. I just didn't think he was going to end up with the number 1 targets there, but here I stand, wrong. Defense for the Broncos, I mean, was nothing. They allowed so many rushes. They didn't really get many sacks. It just was, Lamar had his way. Very efficient, 16 throws, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's very efficient to Zay Flowers, and I think even Rashad Bateman. Derrick Henry was unstoppable at times. It was a brutality. Zay Flowers, very, very good. I guess it wasn't Rashad Bateman. Maybe it was Justice Hill that got the big receiving yards from Lamar Jackson near the end. I mean, they look good. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens with this win, I think, have really solidified them being really, really good, because the defense against this offensive line isn't like the Broncos are not like a bad team. They're a good middle ground team at this point in the season. They're not a good team, they're not a bad team, and the Ravens having their way with a middle team like this shows how dominant they are. Ravens easily AFC contenders. Broncos, you're still fighting for that 7th seed, so we'll see. I'll tell you who's not going to be fighting for that 7th seed. That's going to be the Bears. They're going to be outside looking in, while the Cardinals are also going to be outside looking in, but they are 5-4. That's kind of nuts that they are 5-4, but the NFC is very, very tough. So we'll see how this actually ends up going. Caleb Williams, another whatever day. DeAndre Swift, another whatever day. Rome Odunze is the guy today, so cool. Good for you, Rome. Bears defense did not play very good at all. Kyler Murray did not do very well, but James Conner ate them alive. Ate some Bears alive. This was just brutality. This game was not very interesting because Kyler wasn't doing well, Caleb Williams wasn't doing well, so it's basically just relying on the run game, who could run the best, special teams, stuff like that, and Cardinals just absolutely just ate them alive. Again, not much in the receiving yards, but go figure. Defensively, the Cardinals defense looked like the best thing since sliced bread, because the offensive line for the Bears said, nah, we're not going to cover Caleb Williams today, we're good. So it was nuts, fucking crazy. Not as crazy. Jags losing an actually relatively close game to the Eagles. Eagles did, I mean, they look like the Eagles. They look fine. Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, I mean, they look like week 1 through 3, essentially. So nothing at all. Trevor Lawrence got a bunch of fantasy points for you because he rushed for 2 fucking touchdowns at 8 yards. So good for you. But the Jags team looks awful. The run game is awful. Evan Ingram is the only guy there who's catching passes. Trevor Lawrence does not look like he has time and doesn't even necessarily look good. The Jags defense kept them in it for a little bit, but the Eagles offense is just so good. When Saquon Barkley puts up 150 plus yards, it's just hard to win. Jalen Hurts, 230 yards. I mean, as much as I don't like him, he's good. Devonta Smith, AJ Brown went out, and then Devonta Smith took over that role like nothing else. So like, Devonta Smith is like a number 1 type receiver type guy. If you ever doubted his abilities, holy shit, don't doubt it anymore. Eagles defense, very good, very efficient, but I mean, Jags had a little bit of life in them, so at some point, got to give them the credit where credit's deserved. But Eagles, they're going to be easy contenders. Jags, you might be fighting for that number 1 spot, to be honest with you. Rams, Seahawks, Rams. Puka apparently got into a fist fight. It didn't show it in the recap, but I found it later on. He got ejected, so good for Puka. Punched that guy out. Rams, I mean, offensively, they still look like the same in terms of they are going to be explosively good. Defensively, they're stepping up quite a bit. I'm actually really happy to see the Rams stepping up the way they are. Kyron Williams is great on the ground. Cooper Kupp, even without Puka there, was torching things. So Marcus Robinson came in, found 2 more end zones. It was pretty good. Again, Puka didn't have much in this game because he got ejected, went to overtime. But the Rams on offense, especially when they get the ball like that, it's pretty much OV. It's pretty much OV. The defense for the Rams, oh my God, they were cooking the Seahawks offensive line apart. The Seahawks, this might be the game that makes me think that they are easily out of contention. I thought maybe they could be in the playoff picture a little bit. Nah, it's over. It's over for the Seahawks. I mean, when you go up 363 yards, it's because you're desperate. And they were desperately trying to get something going with anybody that, isn't named DK because DK wasn't there. 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Awful. Kenneth Walker, he got a bunch of touches. Tyler Lockett, JSN tried to do everything he could. Fantasy day and a half. I'm sure not many people started him to be. They might have actually with DK out. So, whatever. Holy fucking shit. I didn't even really do the math for this. Was at 33.5 and half PPR. Holy fuck. Even Tyler Lockett had a pretty good day. So, offensively, they were just trying to do up anything. But, these numbers are a little bit inflated, obviously. So, the defense for the Seahawks did not do anything against the Rams. It was a shootout. It was a shootout, and the Rams won that shootout pretty handily. Even though it went to overtime, it never felt like the Seahawks had a chance. The Rams had too much control of that game. Unfortunately for this game, this wasn't as good of a game as it could be. Jordan Love didn't look very good. Jared Goff, again, and the Lions are just playing with the ball they've known. They're playing a lot smarter than they did last year at this point. Jared Goff, again, looks efficient. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are just doing their job, essentially. The defense for the Lions are doing their job. Everybody's just doing their job. There's nothing exciting about this team in this instance. They didn't just brutalize the Packers and do a bunch of trick plays because they took the Packers very, very seriously. Defensively, like I said, they didn't do any flashy. They put a lot of pressure, closed that pocket, but they didn't try to go for anything too much in terms of yardage. The Lions knew they had the game won if they just would stick to the ground and pound, essentially. Jordan Love, again, didn't look great. He made some good throws long term. Josh Jacobs, when they got to utilize him on the ground, was pretty damn good, but they just couldn't waste that much time. Jaden Reed, back as number 1 receiver for him. Tucker Kraft, a little bit involved. Christian Watson, good to see that he's still in the target scene. So we'll see how that goes going forward. Packers defense, unfortunately, wasn't too relevant, but they weren't unrelevant. It was a bad week for the Packers. Felt like a very ununiform day. I'm sure the Packers will be fine going forward, but this is still a big loss. But against the division rival, my number 1 team in the power rankings currently, so take that as you will moving forward. Both of them are still contenders. Lions more so than Packers, obviously, but we'll see. Colts, I mean, even with Joe Flacco, you're going to look awful. So, I don't know what to think. Do you want Anthony Richardson? Do you want Joe Flacco? I don't know what you do. Just pick somebody and roll with it. All right, Joe Flacco for the rest of the season or Anthony Richardson. Just go with one or the other. Vikings, this is a very Texans type game of they look good, but they didn't look dominant like they did in the first couple weeks, and that's almost sometimes better. I'd rather see the Vikings be consistently good against a team rather than just dominate. So very, very good to see there. Joe Flacco, like I said, wasn't good. Jonathan Taylor didn't get many opportunities. Josh Downs probably the main target there. Michael Pittman's apparently phased out this fucking offense. Whatever. I know he's not literally, but whatever. Colts defense did do pretty well, actually. They actually stepped up quite a bit. When Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson, all them, were looking good, they made some big plays to keep the Vikings into that 1-score lead. So, very, very good. And again, Sam Darnold, 2 interceptions. I mean, the Colts were trying everything they could to keep themselves in the game defensively. But Sam Darnold eventually just, again, threw that rock up, found whoever, mostly Justin Jefferson, but Jordan Addison got involved. T.J. Hawkinson was also relevant. I'm sure his role will expand more. The run game's almost nothing. Cam Akers actually had a better day than Aaron Jones, so we'll see if that turns into anything later on. Other than that, receiving, not too much. The defense for the Vikings has done more consistent things rather than blowing out this team, but they still easily probably won the Vikings their match. They made some big plays as well. So this is a very defensive-minded game. Vikings still easily good NFC contenders. Colts are going to be outside looking in at this point in the season. And Bucks Chiefs, heartbreaking. Chiefs won the coin toss. They won it overtime. Baker Mayfield, not a bad day, especially with who he's throwing to. He actually made some big plays, and he was scrambling too. So good for Baker Mayfield. He looked awesome against a good defense like the Chiefs, showing that the Baker Mayfield train isn't just produced by 2 good receivers. Running game was almost nothing, though. They just really couldn't utilize it. Cade Otton, the only guy there, can really catch passes. Sterling Shepard kind of got involved, but we'll see how that is going forward. Defensively, the Bucs made every play they could. It wasn't good. They didn't make all the amazing plays in the world because they definitely let up a lot more than they should have in terms of the run game. Patrick Mahomes made good plays, but again, that's with every team that Patrick Mahomes plays. So take that as you will. Patrick Mahomes, very good day, probably one of his best days in football this season. Kareem Hunt, workhorse, but he got basically 4 on average, so that's all you need. DeAndre Hopkins, game dude. He did awesome. Dude, Patrick Mahomes with DeAndre Hopkins actually kind of fucking scares me. I'm not gonna lie. Travis Kelce also there, but that's no surprise. Hopkins though, holy fuck, is this gonna be normal? I'm not too sure, but that's kind of fucking scary if it is. Hopkins, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Defensively, Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. They let up a little bit more in the secondary than they usually do, but they got the Baker. They pressured him. That's pretty much all that there is to say. Chiefs are gonna be number 1 seed. Bucks. You really got to fight the Falcons for that spot. I really don't want to see the Falcons in playoffs. We're going to see them in the playoffs, but I don't want to see them as a high seed. Hope you all did enjoy the video. I'll see you on the next one. StraightA Dawson out of here.